Yeah, well, I understand I got a lot on my mind, a lot on my chest. That's why.
All right, what's going on, man? Every time, right there, straight in my face like that. But anyway, what's going on, everybody? Lloyd Jones with the Indie Breakdown, and of course, Midnight Comics. This is the show again, Indie Breakdown. We break down your favorite comic book characters, indie. We're gonna start all that over because I just had a whole brain fart. I'm so sorry. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Lloyd Jones here with the Indie Breakdown. Another episode with another amazing guest. In case you didn't know, the Indie Breakdown is a show where you break down your favorite indie comic book characters' power sets and abilities and get them ready for an indie versus matchup. So again, we got another amazing guest. We're going to have him come up to the stage, introduce himself, the story, and of course, break down a little bit of his character. What's going on, boss?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. There we go. That's better, man. That joint was like right in my face there. So let the people know who you are, man. Tell them about the character, and of course, again, a little bit of the inspiration behind your character.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Branson Grant. I am the creator of the Protector Saga. The book launched in 2020. And I've been working on the second book now. It's both of them are graphic novels. I have an amazing team that's been working on the development of the comic book aspect of the book. Carlos Barbary, Walden Wong. Two powerhouses in the industry. Both have done a lot of work for Marvel, DC, Image Comics. Carlo is actually currently working on Spawn and Gunslinger Spawn right now with Todd McFarlane. So the art is incredible, and it is an absolute pleasure to work with them. I have an incredible second cover artist, Dominic Glover, who I got to see over the weekend here at MegaCon. He's done some incredible work. He did an updated version for my book, which has been updated here recently. So it's been an incredible journey to work with some of these amazing people in the industry. And um, the inspirations for the character was part of my own history and just like comics in general. I love the medium. I love what they do for people. Yeah, I've never met a person who has read comics or been in the comics that don't have some type of profound like impact on them, like some story, some run that has really shaped their life, whether that be in animation or in the comics in general. And just even myself, I have that same aspect. So seeing so many different people and having those different experiences, it just made me want to write something that was going to impact other people and inspire them to follow their dreams and to do other creative things in their own aspect. I've been an artist primarily since kindergarten, and I've been drawing ever since. For the longest time, I thought that was the path I wanted to take, but I ended up going more towards the writing aspect. I felt like I wanted to create something that was my own and that represented my not only just myself but my people. Because like I've never seen a Jamaican superhero. And I've honestly, it's not even just that, like, never seen the island itself in any type of medium represented at all in any prolific way. Like, never seen like Spider-Man, the X-Men. Nobody's ever gone there. It's like it doesn't exist. So like, I was like, and for a long time it bothered me. Like, like I was just like, why has nobody ever done anything like that? But for all things happen for a reason, and then
Exactly.
maybe the story that I'm telling is the reason that needs to happen. So that's just how I view to see it. So that's why it's really, the story itself is really important to me, and it's important that I get a lot of the aspects right. One thing I do love about it, it forced me to do a lot of research on my own heritage, and I loved doing that. I loved learning about the stories that I never knew growing up and everything like that, and learning why certain things are the way they are in my culture. So it's been a great ride, and I've absolutely loved it.
That is amazing. And to your point, yeah, you might as well call it Themyscira at this point because you don't see it. Okay,
Yeah.
you don't see it at all. So okay, we got a little bit of a little hint, of course, obviously, of where your character's from, and the heritage that you're pulling from. Give us a little bit about that origin story as we get ready to dive into again those power sets and abilities.
The origin is Brandon is the descendant of, in my world they're called enhanced, and people with powers they're called enhanced. So he's the descendant of the first enhanced in his universe, um, who was in his reign the king of what was the original Jamaican people. And a cataclysm ended up happening. I don't want to, like I said, I don't give away too much about it, but so he is a descendant of the original, and he ends up having to take on that same power set to defend against an evil that is about to reincarnate back into the world, and he's being trained by his master, who is the original bodyguard of that person, and he's going through this journey to master these abilities, but also meet new enhance that are in the world now and form a team and learn what his abilities and push them past what even the original could do with his abilities, because he understands that if the original couldn't beat him, that he has to go
Mhm.
even further than what that one than
Right.
his descendant did. So it's going to be a long journey. I do have an ending planned,
Okay.
but that is it's still not pretty. It's pretty still pretty far off though. But I
Fair
do
enough.
have an ending plan for the character, which is it makes for the writing process better because I'm like I know where the ending is going. Um, um, so I can't wait.
Okay, fair enough. And so, really quick, of course, obviously, you brought up the enhanced just now.
Mhm.
What kind of scale are we talking? Of course, in universe, right? In comparison between the enhanced and regular humanity, right? Where's the kind of power there? How much stronger are they than your average person?
They all have different abilities
Okay.
that range from like my inspiration would be more of like relying on like the DC universe because I feel like their power sets are just much higher, but at the same time I scaled back a lot of them because like when I initially was writing, I was like I need these people to be faster than this person, better than this person. Like I was
Hmm.
like gauging the abilities of other characters like in Marvel and DC, and I was just like when I like break down their abilities, like I want them to be on paper better than these people, but that didn't really help the writing as far as the characters. Like people fall in love
Right.
with the characters more than they do the power sets, and what
Mhm.
was a big indication for that for me was the show Justice League, the
Yes.
um the,
Okay.
the animated series. The characters in to me in the Justice League animated series are far weaker than their comic
Mhm.
counterparts, but
Absolutely.
people mostly relate to that show because of the character dynamics built in them. Like the subtle episodes in there that really draw people in. So it had nothing to do with the powers. So the powers are cool. It's cool that the powers exist and everything, but characters should be the driving force and not powers. And it
Yes.
becomes a character becomes harder to write when they can bench press the universe.
Yeah.
It's just like why doesn't he just do this? Like if you go in Marvel and DC, you start looking at the actual power stats of what these individual people do, like even low like B and C tier level heroes. It's like why isn't everything just done? Like why
Right.
isn't the so
Why is
like
there a
yeah
struggle?
why is there like crime at all? Like why so like it becomes harder to write because you have to always like make these bad caveats on why the hero didn't do X, Y, and Z, or why the villain didn't do
Mm.
X, Y, and Z. So I started scaling down what they could do um to a not more realistic, but like just a lower level than what they were generally operating with, so that it's like, oh, he can't just do this because he can run so fast, he can stop time and do this,
Right.
that. Like those elements I kind of just stayed away from, so that like like I have a character named Momentum. He's the fastest in my universe. His primary ability is speed, and he has um started thinking of cool ways he could use that speed rather than making impossible feats of time travel and stopping
Right.
time and things like that. I wanted the character to be cool and visually have cool effects and things like that, rather than his power set is so unsurmountable. Like you'll never be able to hit him because he's so fast. Like that just it doesn't help with the writing because like
Right.
it makes your audience ask too many questions rather than
Mhm.
just enjoying the story that's going on.
You bring up momentum, right? And we're talking about like the worry in Marvel and DC with actually look at the power sets and how much it kind of throws things off, right? I immediately thought about the Flashes, right? There was
Yeah.
this comic panel I saw a little while back and Catwoman was able to tag all three of the Flashes. Her and Batman were back to back. If she tagged
Right.
all three of them, there's no way.
Yeah,
How are you like? And then
it's not
you're like,
possible. It's
it's not.
and the shows pointed that out to me too, because
Mhm.
like they would have an instance where like Flash would deal with something in a room and the bad guy would run outside, Flash would super speed outside, and then the guy would just be gone and he'd be like, I can't find him. But then in the same episode he'd be like, I searched the whole city 5 times over and I couldn't find him. And I was like, so then how did that
It-
guy earlier get away from you?
right.
Like it doesn't add up. It just doesn't
Literally
make
doesn't make sense.
yeah, it just can't, because you understand, like, for the Flash perspective, when he's moving that fast, time for everybody else is stopped. So if he
Mhm.
decides to go from point A to point B, you don't get to keep running.
No.
Like, so it
No.
just doesn't make sense for somebody who's like watching it and like trying to understand. So it just makes things just seem contrived, like it just happened because of the plot. And I try to avoid a lot of that by just not hitting a lot of elements like that. So I do my best. Like I'm sure that, when the thing blows up, like somebody's gonna be like, well, this doesn't make sense, or like, all right,
Hey,
we can't all be perfect. I'm sorry, but I do
fair enough.
try my best to stay away from tropes like that.
Yeah, and you know what? It's refreshing to hear. There's lots of areas of opportunity in our space, right? In the indie storytelling space, comic book space, especially. One of our first seasons, and again, no disrespect or anything like that, not going there with it, but episode 10. I think it was episode 10. One of the last episodes of season 1. We had Black Bow, right? And he has this feat in there, and he didn't even realize it. There's an explosion that takes place, right? And everything around him is flying, building is melting and stuff like that. And Black Bow is right in the midst of it, unscathed. Right. I'm like, well,
Wow.
that's obviously a durability feat, right? Like you're not
Right.
scratched, you didn't move, you didn't do anything. And he was just like, oh crap, I didn't think about it. It's like, yeah, somebody's gonna read that. That's a canon event to your story. So when you
Right.
talk about, oh, somebody with the strength of Captain America is gonna punch him.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and is Captain America punching so hard that it's knocking several buildings? You know what I mean? Like, is he having that
And
level of area of effect?
And
No.
it was that, and it was YouTubers. It was
Right.
YouTubers and people like you who I
Hmm.
would see like going into like so much detail and having these like battles back and forth on who could beat who, and all these levels of feats, and like the massive amount of fandom
Hmm.
behind these projects. And I'm like, man, like I can't just make it so ambiguous on like who can do what and like
Hmm.
what can actually happen. Like I can't say a normal person gets hit by a truck and then goes into a wall and then all of a sudden they get up and they just keep walking, because and you know what? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna tell
Go
you
ahead.
this. So like I got into a car accident. I got to a car accident probably like 3 years ago.
Jesus.
No, like 5 years ago now. I got into a car accident, and I didn't initially, I didn't have anything wrong with me. I was
Mhm.
like up, moving around, everything was fine with me. And then I went to the hospital later because my back started hurting, and it was a couple hours later. And
Mhm.
then I went there because I was like, I should probably get checked out just in case.
Right.
And I ended up having like 3 or 4 herniated discs, a cracked rib, and a bunch of like other issues that they found.
Hmm.
And I worked a whole shift at work, right? And then like they were like, yeah, you have a lot, you need to go to they were already writing me up everything I needed to do and everything. And like I'm like, I have
Jesus.
all, and like I was T-boned. I was hit directly on my driver's side, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, and you know what's running through my head at this time? I'm like, I have all these problems. How the heck do the people from the Fast and Furious be
Oh,
getting
there's
up
no
and
way.
doing? I was done.
Look, you know what? I'm
I
not
was
gonna get
like,
on the soapbox, but me and Alonzo from Concrete talk about how unstoppable Dominic Toretto really is. More on
facts.
that a whole
Yeah.
nother time. But this is the perfect segue right here.
So
I know
yeah,
you.
so yeah, that
Oh,
like I was like, yo, I gotta. There's got to be some. I understand this is a fictional world. I understand that
right.
completely. But people have real conversations about them that are
Yeah.
like, what can this character do and endure? versus X, Y, and Z. So I was like, then I need to like put that much detail in like the battle, like if
Mm-hmm.
there's injuries and like other things that are happening. Like there's also fight. If you watch, it's the Superman, the Death of Superman
Yes.
movie,
Mm-hmm.
the one they did in the New 52 style.
Mm-hmm.
They did like they had an actual martial artist come in, and he was critiquing the fight between Superman and Doomsday.
Mm-hmm.
He was critiquing, and like it's in the special features, like he's critiquing all the moves, the level of damage that they're taking. He was going through it line by line, and I'm like, this is, and it was all making sense. It was making
Mm-hmm.
sense from a, and he was using practical aspects in a super fantastical way to judge the fight and the level of damage that Superman was taking, why he was so tired, why he was winded during these moves, how this would affect you in real life, like hit the fact that he's losing breath here, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is the level of technicality I need to put because like other people
Somebody's gonna
really,
do it.
yeah, somebody's gonna do it, and it's just like it just when you just have characters that are just slugging on each other for hours and like it just seems like they're not taking any damage. It's just
Mhm.
like then what are we watching this fight for? What's the stakes in this
Just
fight?
two
Like
action figures.
yeah,
Just
they're just
no.
yeah, they're just yeah, it's just nothing is happening. So it's just like nobody's really gaining any ground. Like it just seems like two unstoppable forces just hitting each other. So I wanted there to be like realistic um realistic damage to the characters. And I think Invincible does that very well in its comic
I
run.
definitely agree.
I think he's very good. I haven't got to read another one I will speak on is Radiant Black. It's a great
Yeah.
comic by Kyle Higgins. I haven't got to read as much of that as I want, but I own a lot of it, but I haven't got to sit down and just read it. But it's another good one that I would say that I'm currently still reading. Those are honestly the only comics I'm actually currently even buying.
Okay. Now, I will say two things. One, we're going to segue into the character that you're bringing to the breakdown specifically and more about him.
Mhm.
But then, in regards to what you're talking about, like that breakdown and stuff like that, there's a channel that I watch. I think his name is Sensible Saiyan, and like he like breaks down like not just Dragon Ball fights, but other fights from different animes and stuff like that, talking about how he's got his guard up here, how he's slipping this and going for the twist, like it's and like grades it and actually, yeah, it's pretty neat. So
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's
yeah,
really cool. I like people who do that because I'm a big I love martial arts. I
okay,
love the very like the technicality of it. I love what it brings to the world. I so that aspect is prevalent in my book. Their fighting aspect because I feel like martial arts comes from a spiritual sense. Like I
hmm,
don't feel like it's just two people punching each other. There's a training to it.
absolutely,
There's a piece with it that comes. It's not just about fighting, it's about something else. So like I had to incorporate that in there because like since I've been young I've always loved martial arts, like loved Power Rangers as a kid, like
did
like
you
that
ever
was
practice by chance?
not formally. I never
Okay,
formally practiced only, and there's a reason because like when you're formally trained, just from my sense, it's like it's kind of like a you have to like register. Like, it's kind of like being a boxer. Like when
hmm,
you're trained as a boxer, you're a registered boxer. If you get into any type of scuffle or anything,
you in trouble?
you're gonna be in a lot more trouble. Like
Yeah,
even like I'm in security. Like I'm a shift supervisor at a correctional facility. So even that right there is enough as well for it.
hmm,
So like it's that also like because but like it's more like on the restraint basis where it's like
legit,
they would be more in trouble than I would probably.
right? Okay, no, but I brought that up because I used to back in the day, and that definitely is one of the aspects. Like when we're talking about like some of the fight scenes and stuff, it's just like, does that make sense though? So
Right,
anyway,
right, right.
let the people know what character you're bringing today to the breakdown because obviously you do have a couple, right? But which character are you bringing today? And then let's dive right in. Give us the powers, stats, abilities, some feats that are in the book. Lay it on us. What do you got?
I would be bringing my main character, the Protector, who's the main antagonist of my story. His abilities are initially right now is basically the generic ones. Like he has flight, he has super strength, he has super speed, super. He has heightened reaction time. He has heightened healing. Um, he has energy blast, energy absorption. Um, I think that's pretty much his general feats right now.
Okay.
Initially when I created him, he was way stronger. He was too strong. That was another, like I said before, it was just it was becoming hard to write because it was just like I was credited. So like I scaled him down because I
Mhm.
wanted his abilities to be a progression. I
Yeah.
wanted every story, every battle he got stronger, and he was moving towards something, and there was a reason for his strength. So I scaled them down exponentially to help with the story writing of that.
Okay. So several questions with that then. In regards to growth for the enhanced, specifically the protector, is how does he is it getting stronger in, like in the sense like a human base, as long as you're training, you're able to kind of push your limits a little further? And what's kind of like the category? Is it a quick growth? Is it again kind of like us where it's a slow progression of consistency? Tell us a little bit more about how an enhanced, specifically the protector, kind of grows in strength and ability.
The protector, he's always like I said, he's trained with his former bodyguard of his descendant. So like he's training him in combat. He's training him in mental capacities because like his abilities are as much physical as they are mental. Like it's his understanding and his belief in his abilities that also push his abilities just as much as his physical body. And like when he in the book, like when he first gets his power, it's almost too much for his body to take, and he makes him
Ooh.
aware of that. Like his master, he gives him more than what he's able to take, so he understands like the prefer. Like he almost like dies from like how much power that he's taking on, and he has to like scale back so much. So he has to like he spends months training just to like use like 10% of what he's able to do.
Now, is
And
that via the energy absorption situation, or is that
right. So like
okay?
the in the like the bulk of his entire power comes from this artifact called an orb, and it has all of his abilities, like all the ability that is in his bloodline. Because I can't say. Okay, so Charles was the original owner of was the original person who found the orb. He
Mhm,
ended up touching it, and the energy went into him, and upon his death, he knew that the evil was going to return because all he could do was seal it away.
mhm,
So he used his knowledge of the orb and what he could do to tie the power to his bloodline so that no other person could ever access it without
mhm.
being one of his descendants. So
Okay.
when Brandon comes along, he's taking on what he can handle at that point in time,
Mhm.
and it's not at the beginning, it's not even 10% of what Charles maxed out of his own ability. So even Charles at his 100% was not 100% of what the orb had to offer. So even if
Wow. Okay.
Brandon maxes himself out, unless he's able to mentally combat what the orb is trying to do, he's not going to be able to access 100% of the orb. And what I did that is what I why another one of the reasons why is I wasn't sure if I wanted Brandon to be the final person in his bloodline to do all of the things the orb
Okay.
had to do. So if for some reason I decide to change that later on, it gives me a way to rewrite to be like, even though if Brandon's able to defeat whatever evil or whatever the case may be later on, he still didn't access all the abilities that this orb had for him. And a lot of the divines are like that because most of the powers in my universe are all killing their protagonists, like because the powers they have are themselves evolving, and humans
Hmm.
have only evolved so much. So
Right.
like it's to like there's a scene in the beginning of it where Major Hammer, um the leader of Liberty Force, he's fighting, and he has a belt that restricts his power. It limits his power. So at one point, he has to access all of it because he doesn't feel he can win. So he takes the belt off and he accesses 100%. It's far too much for him because he's limited himself his whole life,
Mhm.
and he fights with his full abilities and does what he can do. But every person is honestly in this state of they're trying to limit what they can do because their power is overtaxing their body.
Right.
So, but later on in the series, you're going to find out why that's happening and the mitigation behind that. Because Brandon it's basically kind of like the person is always in a battle with their abilities, is like what is going to win out, what is going to last before them. So I wanted that it's a very eternal struggle. So I kind of wanted that to be this always internal battle that Brandon knows that his power is basically killing him. But he keeps going because there's nobody else to do this. And he knows that he has to do this. And I've always admired characters that just do things because it's the right thing to do. It has no, like, they have no gain from what they're doing. They're just doing it because they're the only ones that can step up and do what they're doing it because it's the right thing to do.
I like that.
Some of my favorite characters like Captain America and Green Lantern, like those were like big inspirations because I just feel they're always characters who choose to do whatever's right despite anything that would benefit them to just not do anything.
Dude, that is fire. So I do have additional questions in regards to that. So how long kind of has this? I guess this is directly tied to Brandon, but like, how long has this orb kind of been passed out? Is it just kind of like a 3 generations so far thing, or is this?
No, this is like so. Okay, so Charles takes place at the birth of humanity. Like he's like the beginning of like the first like major villages. Like, okay, I can say that too. All right, so when Charles was around, I had all the continents together, like so it formed Pangea. And at the end of the battle, so at the end of that battle, the battle was so severe that it separated all the continents. And that's why they're apart. Because like he ends up battling like elemental forces, like people who control water, earth, and fire and wind. So he's battling these beings that control elemental forces, and like as they have there's no moderation with them using their abilities. So like when they're moving like mountains, like they're pulling earth from up like deep underground. They're doing like serious damage to the planets. And like that's also like that's like another thing I had a problem with is like things would happen and people not understand like how those things work. Like if somebody can control the earth and you're like pulling up massive amounts of earth from the ground, you're like creating massive chasms underneath the ground that are like forming fissures and stuff like that. Like it would have a big global effect on the planet.
Right.
So like I've had this when this battle is going on, like I was like, as the battle winds down, like what they did had such a geological damage to the earth. It literally was pushing the entire continent apart. So like Charles takes place like literally thousands of years before anything, and like so his descendants have lasted all the way up to like current day to Brandon.
So is this the group that he sealed away? So
it's them and their original master, and their master was named Zaspy, who was also Charles's closest friend. And he just couldn't bring himself in the end. Like the way that a lot of the people in the few that know this story, the way they see it is Charles could not refuse to end Zaspy because he just couldn't do it because he was his friend. He chose his friendship over the world, basically. But the truth of the matter is Zaspy was too strong for him. He honestly couldn't beat him in conventional terms. So sealing him away was the best he could do. And in the end, he was hoping that it would work out better than actually killing him. But he sealed him and sealed his 4 acolytes away with him.
Okay. And so is that inherently a power of the orb? And so technically would Brandon have the ability to do so as well?
He could do it. It's not inherently to the orb. Initially I did have it as that, but later on I came up with an offshoot story because I was like, I'm gonna eventually do a Charles run where it's just his story and everything that led up to his battling. So what I had it is Charles ended up marrying a woman from the African area
Hmm.
who was a sorcerer of a group of individuals. They believed in different deities
Hmm.
that were I would say like culturally different than Charles's,
Hmm.
and she was sent to him to basically infiltrate his village and find a way to steal Charles's power and basically bring down the village so that they could use it for their own services. And after
Hmm.
she met Charles and understood who he was, she ended up falling in love with him, and then she ended up teaching Charles like all like the sealing techniques and different like power
Okay.
sets of her own people. And then they had a kid, and then those things were passed down to him. And then like so like you're we had two different races of people of like great strength coming together to form this like incredible bloodline
I like
that
that.
was even greater than Charles's and by himself. So that is like innately to Charles because Charles learned that from
From
her.
her.
Yeah.
I like that. Everything isn't contingent upon having this power from this
Right.
orb like that.
Yeah.
There's other power sets out there. I like that. Okay. So going back to it then. So I was going to ask is this like a power storing thing? So when he sealed them up, ooh, that was one specific I went to ask. When he sealed them, he didn't seal them in the orb or anything. He sealed them out.
No.
Okay,
He
cool.
he sealed them like he sealed them like out of time. Like
Okay.
so Zaspy is sealed in a perpetual state like where he can honestly see everything that's going on currently, but he can't access anything. He's in a step out of time. It's like he can't interact, he can't do anything, like there's nothing he can do. He's sealed away, but he can still see all current events that are going
Hmm.
on.
Okay.
And his acolytes, they were sealed inside the mask that Zaspy created. And Zaspy, like, he's to me, it's like he's a dark reflection, not even necessarily dark reflection, because like for him and Charles is like they grew up, they were best friends like all through childhood. They were born at the same time.
Mhm.
They were like best friends and everything. So they have two staunch different views of the world
Yes.
where Charles was always very protective of his people and was willing to invite other people into the village and grow the village and protect them all because he saw himself like Zaspy is the one who gave Charles the name the Protector. Like after he gains his power, he gives him
Ah,
the name the Protector. Like, and that's where it even came from. So it's like he's that intrinsic
even the
to
title was passed down.
yeah.
I like this.
So
Okay.
so like they just like later as they're together, the more the village gets bigger and the more Charles is doing, Zaxby just sees the world as dangerous. He sees like other massive villages spiking up, things are powers are starting to happen. He sees that, and then like when they were younger, their village when they were small was attacked by a group of raiders, and Charles was almost killed, and he sees that he's like, just because you're the strongest now doesn't mean you're always going to be the strongest. If we
Mhm.
don't do something to mitigate these other factions out there, there's something could happen to the people. So he is worried about the people. But the thing is he lets his worry and fear overtake the fact of like how he wants to do things.
Yeah.
And and he also sees Charles as like kind of a half measure because Charles is like, look, if people are here, I'll protect them. If anything happens, I will protect them. But I'm not going to go out and seek war like some type of conquering king and tell these people they need to fall underneath my banner. That's not his way. It's not his style of doing things.
No.
So that's what Zaxby's problem with Charles is. And after he ends up leaving the village for a time, is when like he's like, if I'm going to do what I need to do, I'm gonna have to take Charles out. Charles is always going to be my biggest opposition. If I were to relate their relationship, I would say like something between like Madara and Hashirama.
Nice.
and
Okay.
like Fire Lord Ozai, no Fire Lord, yeah, I think it's Fire Lord Ozai and Fire Lord, no, not Ozai. It's man, gosh, I'm blanking. The two avatars, the ones that were both Fire Lords,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right, yeah. So like, yeah, that like those relationships really intrigue me because like it adds another element. Like I feel like when you're always writing from like this guy's bad because it's bad. He's just a
Mm-hmm.
bad guy. He just wants to do bad guy stuff. Like that, like it's hardly interesting. I mean, I have some characters like that because there's
Right.
always people like that. But like I feel
Is
like
there still a goal instead of
right,
just being right?
I like my main conflict to have like a lot of like emotional weight between the characters because like it's when you ask your audience to like I don't know who I agree with more. You know, like when they're like, I get both sides, like I get it, but like you have to understand like one, it's not about who is right and who is wrong. It's about the methods they take to do it. And
Agreed.
it's like you gotta understand like what that breeds from it. Like Zaspy is a very like he loves his people. He loves what's going on. He wants, you know, he does want peace. But the thing is that level of peace will eventually breed a monster. And if
Mhm.
that's where, and that's what, if that's what the seeds you're planting initially, you can't be upset when a darker force that even you can't contend with arises because you weren't able to follow the right path because
Right.
you wanted what to happen. You wanted it to happen right now. You didn't want to wait. You didn't want to take the time to do the right thing. So it's like that's the epilogue of thing. And a lot of people from Zaspy's decisions end up coming from that same decision millions of years, thousands of years later. You know,
Mhm.
so that is it was a good concept I wanted to keep up with.
Okay, so now reverting back a little bit, dude. I love how thought out this story is. I gotta say. Now, we talked about the orb. Now on to a little bit of the strength, because obviously I'm getting one for all vibes, right? Where there's greater and greater power that kind of lies within, but at the moment, if you flex too much of it, you're gonna be your arm gonna be hanging off, right?
Yeah,
So I
facts.
want to
Yeah.
know at this I believe you said 10% level at the moment, really, that he's operating under. What is that kind of upper echelon that he can reach before he starts hurting himself, right? What is his how do I want to
I
ask this differently? What is his comfortable strength level, and then what is he doing? Is he lifting cars, buildings, knocking out mountains? What's that strength level?
I believe I can't remember the exact number because I don't have the book in front of me. I believe at the end of his training in the first book, I think I have him at like 25%. I believe so.
Okay.
And like at that level, he's supersonic speed, like flying.
Okay.
He can lift a building, like a pretty sizable skyscraper, but like it's more so in with his abilities of energy manipulation. So it's like he would put a force field over the building
Oh,
and then combine that with his strength to keep it
okay.
there. Because like even like with like if you think about it, like if you tried to lift a building, if you had super strength, you would just go through it, like because the building is heavier. Like you're not able to put proper distribution over the whole building
Well
to
done.
properly hold it. So his field, and that's where it comes with like his mental capacity. Like
Hmm.
it places a lot of mental strain on him while he's doing stuff like that. Like he has to keep himself mentally fit as well as physically fit. So like it's like all of those things have to correlate in one while he's doing the feats that he's doing because like he has to be able to process like what he's doing and
Right.
like so like he has a credit like he's definitely super strong. He's definitely beyond well beyond like super soldier or anything like that.
Okay.
But like it's still like within if anything, I would say like a little less than like Invincible season one is where is
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
like it's kind of just to give you like a gauge of where he's at of like
Hmm.
strength and speed and stuff like that. Like that's like physical as and the physical durability and stuff like that. So yeah,
Okay, so he's tanking shots from a tank.
right.
He's tanking missiles at this point, or at least by the end of the published book that you have, he's able to tank those type of things. Now, Warhead is probably pushing it at this point.
Not that it would kill him, I
Mhm.
wouldn't say, but it would definitely knock him out for a
Okay.
little bit, or like it would definitely probably injure him more because like it's not just it's the physical impact that he's taken because like the shield around his body and like the shields he uses, it's like it lowers the impact damage that he's taking, but he's
Okay.
still feeling some of it. It's kind of like a bulletproof vest. Like the vest stops the bullet,
Yes, but you're still
but
gonna get bruised.
right, you're still gonna get bruised. So he's still feeling the bruising on some of depending on how big the attack that he's taking on. So
Okay.
like so something like something like a nuclear warhead would definitely take him out for a while
Okay.
because like
Well,
it's a lot of perpetual damage that he's taking at once. But like bullets and stuff like stuff like that like really wouldn't bother him at all. But
okay.
like he has to his his first major his first major battle is with a guy named Shroud, and he can control basically like shadows.
Hmm.
And like, but like he's only fought with his master Omar. He's only fought with him, and Snow now when he gets into an actual fight with somebody who's trying to kill him and somebody who's also an enhanced, he realizes that damage hits way different
Yeah.
than just training. So like and also like he ends up like creating like a negative space of shadow that like
Hmm.
cuts him off. Cause like initially, like right now, like so Brandon, like now that once he gets his power, he's connected to the orb. The orb is constantly feeding him energy and he's
Hmm.
like mitigating how much energy he's using. So the shroud creates like a negative space and it almost severs the connection. So as he's fighting Shroud, he's getting systematically weaker because he's not able to draw on the full extent of what his power of what he's then capable of doing.
Capable of.
Right.
So, okay. Okay. Noted there. Hmm. I'm trying to think of my next question with that being said. So I'll leave the orb alone because I was gonna dive back into the orb questions with that because I kind of want to know more about this villain. But what you're bringing up is he's still very fresh right now in his career
Yeah.
up in this, and that lack of experience there. How long has he been training with his master? Like, obviously, again, going into that first battle, it's like, oh, this is what it's like to fight against somebody that's really out.
I think
But
initially I have it's a few months he's training with him. Like I think like
okay,
6 months,
so we're
something like
we're
that.
going with him on this
Yeah,
journey.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I wanted Brandon to be the engine of this world because a lot of the world has already existed. There's been other teams, there's been other enhanced things are happening. Like
Mhm.
other things have already been in place by both the villains and heroes and stuff like that. Brandon, that has nothing to do with Brandon.
Right.
And like so when I was initially when I was writing, I didn't have an existential crisis that brought Brandon into the story.
I like.
Whereas like there's well, most good books there's a call to action for
Yeah.
the hero. So like in mine it was just like when I was first writing it was just like Omar just decided that like um Brandon was going to be the protector now, and
Mhm.
there wasn't a major. I think the
He's
only
not
thing I
the
had was like
chosen one per
right,
se.
like it was like Omar did not want this to happen because if it happens, it means that Zaspy's going to return. So like the fact that he needs Brandon is not something he wanted to happen.
Right.
Plus, like it's like he also did not train Brandon from like a child. Like he wasn't like preparing him to be the protector. He stayed out of almost all the descendants' lives because he didn't want them to live their whole life in fear of one day this is going to
And hold
happen
that
and like
weight.
I need yeah. So like he wanted them to live perfectly normal lives, but he also feels back. It's like if I could have better prepared them in this when this time actually came and later on, you'll find out that he did actually have a conversation with Brandon's father that about this. He had a conversation with him about this incident, and he felt that it was necessary because he started to feel Zaspy's presence in the world more. So he thought that Zaspy, because he can't see everything. He's not omnipresent.
Mhm.
So he thought he's just like if I can feel his presence more, that means people are moving to his resurrection. So I need to prepare the protector. So he has a conversation with his father about this. and nothing happens for a while, but and that was what I had initially for Brandon, is that he was feeling the presence, and he used that as a reason that I need to train Brandon. I need to something needs to happen, like I need to prepare him. So, but then I went back and I was like, I need to write a bigger inciting incident that like cements, like Brandon needs to come into the story. Things are happening and I need to get things moving. So I wrote so in the first book, I wrote an instance where Omar has a battle with a character who's trying to free one of Zaspie's acolytes. He tries to free one of his masked warriors that he has, and he ends up getting the mask and everything like that to assist with that. And it's in that instant where he's like, this is happening. I need to get Brandon. I need to start training him as a protector.
That realization.
And they train in something that's similar to, so when Zaspie was sealed away, he sealed away in a negative space that's outside of time. So they also train in a space that's outside of time. So he's been training for 6 months, but barely a few days have gone by in the real world.
Okay, so like a hyperbolic
like,
time chamber type situation.
Yeah, similar to that, because I was just like, his training of what I have planned and what I have planned for other characters, it's like if I try to condense it, it's going to seem like the characters make this big jump and there's like no real, like, it's just like you could have always did this. Like, what took you so long if you were able? It's like, because I wanted to put an element in there that was like, they could go away for a few years and actually train and develop their abilities, and it won't have a significant effect on the real world, and they can actually come back and be stronger for what they actually
like
need
that you thought about that, because so many times we see these trainings, we see these power-ups, we see all of these things, and you're like, yo, I'm pretty sure that would completely destroy the planet. Like, even when we, obviously easy, low-hanging fruit here, Dragon Ball, right? All that charging up, as many earthquakes as they're causing from just their sheer power. You talk about, even I think it was in the manga, maybe even in the show or movie version of Battle of Gods, they were talking about the fact that that initial fight between Goku and Beerus could potentially destroy the universe. And you're talking about,
it was sending shockwaves like
stronger.
everywhere, and I was like, they were doing that on Earth though. They were throwing hands on Earth.
And I don't remember anybody wishing for the Earth to be indestructible. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, so I like that you thought about the fact that, like, it's not safe to really try to go all out.
I try to keep damage always in my mind.
Okay.
Like, on how it is going to affect everything around everything. And like how it affects the characters, how it affects the planet, the buildings, the cities, even the infrastructure of the city. So like, there's a in the beginning of my book, there's a massive battle in New York that decimates probably a good chunk of it, and there's decimation around the world, but New York got hit one of the worst because the Enhanced are battling in New York against this foe. And so in the second book that I'm currently writing, there is a
spoiler territory. No, stop.
Yeah, a little bit. So in the second book, there is an enhanced evacuation program in the city. So like, I have like the sidewalks open up, people are allowed to escape into it. The sidewalks are built with like reinforced material that was from that battle that can take extreme amount of damage and everything like that people can just immediately get away into and stuff like this. When the city rebuilt itself, it rebuilt itself in a way that if any of with that in mind, where if anything of these things were to happen again, that they have an exit plan and stuff like that. And like, there's also other parts that are not that weren't rebuilt yet because the damage was so severe yet. But I wanted to keep it relegated because like, I understand how long it takes things to like move in the real world. And like, it just, in comics, like, I think Marvel had like 5 back-to-back events happen, and New York was rebuilt in like literally a day, like every single time. And it made no sense to me. Like, so like, those are things I kept in mind. I also like, crime was also a thing that I try to think about, because a lot of people always ask like, what comes first? Was it the villains or the heroes? Like, was it the heroes' escalation abilities? Like so Batman stopping like muggers, and then but that gave birth to people like the Riddler and like the Joker. Like, so like, is it the hero's fault of the escalation? And like, so it's like, do we even need the heroes? Like, I feel
Right.
like there's a lot of books like that, like where it's like that's how they believe. And then every time what they do is like they have like a hero ban, and then
Mhm.
like all the villains go away. Like they're just gone. So like it makes it look like the hero's fault, because like when they ban the heroes, you don't see like the world sink into darkness. It's just the world
Right.
becomes normal. It's
It's
like,
like
so
Dark
then
Knight Returns, man. It's just like, yo, what?
that doesn't work. So like it's like, so if the hero's gone, why are there not villains taking over everything? So like I had Chicago, like, in, so it'll be for the second book. Chicago got to a point where like they were thinking about abandoning the city. Like there
Mhm.
was the villains and everything.
Hey.
It got to a point where like they were like, we are gonna have to abandon the facility, the entire city, because of the way of the hero. Because like they banned, there's a part in the first book where they ban heroes because of what happened in the beginning, because what they happened prior to my
Prior to.
first book.
Mhm.
So they banned heroes, and Chicago got so bad that they were going to abandon the city because the crime was so crazy. And then a hero comes along and basically like decimates
Wipes the
all of
slate.
them, and restores them to what they're supposed to be. And that is that was always like in my mind, like crime can't disappear just because heroes are not there.
Right.
Like
That's
it's
not
it
that's not how the real world. Well, the real
and
world would
and
work. Right.
I didn't want cause and effect escalation. So like I didn't want
Power
super
creep.
villains. I didn't want super villains um only existing because the heroes exist. So like
Mhm.
all of these elements had to already be there. Like I needed escalation of like why the cops aren't enough, why heroes are even necessary, and like that's like part of the universe. Like the cops do have enhanced weaponry to try to
Mhm.
combat people with enhances, but like the enhances start coming more frequently that they're just not able to keep up with them, and like
Okay.
more and more of them lose their lives. But enhance are like still banned in the time of the protector.
Of
Like
the protector.
they're not able to like freely, be heroes anymore.
Okay. Now we are getting closer to time. I want to verify a couple things before we move to the last couple items. Of course, we talked about durability, right? He can survive a nuke, but he will be incapacitated for a little while, right?
Right.
We did talk about speed. He's going to be at supersonic, and I assume his reaction is about there as well, right? Where
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to really shoot him traditionally or what have you. We talked about that strength level, right? Whereas, sure, he could pick up a sizable building, but it's not just pure muscle strength. It's also going to be using some of the energy that he's able to project to
Right.
either create that force field and stuff to hold that up. So two things, and of course we talked about the orb where he's getting these powers and what have you from. But
Mhm.
last two things, well, side thing, can he breathe in space and underwater by chance? Would the orb be able to sustain him because of the shield? Just
Yeah. The
okay,
shield, or the energy shield he has around himself, would allow him to breathe in space, or because it also filters out anything, like, so like there's no like toxin,
toxins
there's
and
no
stuff.
anything like that, like it would dissipate anything against him, anything negatively. And it's at its low, even when he's like, if you see him glowing, that's him outputting like him and his max self,
Right.
like of what he's currently using. Like, so like in his day to day, when he's not glowing, um the shield is still inactive. It's still active. So like even it's not conscious on what he perceives. So like if a sniper were to like find out that Brandon's the protector and shoot him,
Mhm.
the shield would block it regardless of the
Okay.
fact of him knowing. So, but the strength of it is determined
There.
by him knowing. So like a bullet wouldn't do anything, but somebody who has like, let's say Brandon has a 10 strength and his opponent has a 15 strength. If the
Mhm.
opponent were to hit him from behind, the shield would block it, but it's going to shatter the shield because it's stronger than what the shield can prevent at that time. But it's still going to limit the damage he's taking, but he's still going to feel the impact of partial of that damage.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know if you can
Ah,
hear the
you're good,
projector.
man.
Um,
I got two running around here now.
fair enough. No, so okay. So thank you for that information about the shield because I was curious about that. Now,
Mhm,
last two things. We're talking about energy absorption and that energy kind of projecting out, right?
mhm.
In regards to that, how much energy is he able to pull in? Sorry, how
So
much of that energy? How much energy is he able to pull in? And where exactly is he pulling the energy from? Out of curiosity.
he's pulling the energy in from the orb, so it's always feeding into
Oh,
him.
duh! You did say
Yeah.
that.
No, you're
Sorry.
good. So no, so
Okay.
yeah, he's pulling in energy in from the orb. As far as like external energies, he can absorb them, and when he absorbs them, it changes it into the energy that the orb is using. So the
Mhm.
orb is able to absorb energy and basically like transmute it into its own ability, which comes on the fact of his knowledge is that he has to be understand of like, so let's say he starts the fight at 100%, and he over the course of the fight he drops himself down to 60%. He's able, and his opponent tries to hit him with an energy blast, he's able to absorb it, transmute it into his own energy. He's able to recharge himself, but he can't, if he overtaxes himself, it'd be too much on his body. So he has to
Okay.
understand his own limits to put himself back where he needs to be. But if he's not able to transmit the energy fast enough of what he's taking, it could instantly overtax him because of what he's trying to do. It's like he's
Mm.
trying to absorb and understand what the energy he's absorbing it to change it into his own energy.
Oh,
So that way he can use it. But if he can't do it fast enough, it could overtax him and he could just get blasted.
okay. So if he doesn't understand the energy he's absorbing, no bueno.
Right.
He's out of there.
Yeah.
I like that. It's not
Yeah.
just one of those, oh, it's all energy is energy. I got this.
Right.
There's actually, okay. I like
So
that.
like usually if something like that were to happen, he's like blocking it with a shield
Hmm.
to give to like, so as it's hitting its shield, it's giving him information on the makeup of the shield, of
Hmm.
the energy.
Yeah.
So like as he's doing that, if he doesn't have enough time to process that, it could overwhelm him and he'd not be able to do anything. But if he has the enough time, he can absorb that energy and use it for himself.
I like that. Now, we're getting close to time. I was going to say,
It's
now,
fine.
when he brings in that excess energy and he understands a new form of energy, is he now able to use other forms of energy now based on what
He
he's
would.
absorbing, or does it just kind of
Oh,
assimilate it?
what? Yeah, what he's using, it just assimilates into his. It becomes
Okay.
his own energy. But there are going to be instances where he can use other forms of energy. And like there's going to be one instance where he can use lightning, like actual lightning, and but
Okay.
that's going to be because of something else. But
Okay.
it's stuff like that is possible with him. Like I said, like I ended up setting the final scale of the character really high because I was like, at the end of the story, he's going to be able to like do almost basically anything because of what he's going to actually end up having to face and what he's going to actually end up having to do. And that is only going to be a cap on him, like because like the protector will, like, he'll have kids and everything like that, like all these things. So like there will be there will be other aspects of it. Whether I continue after that will be like, I'd love to, but like my focus is getting onto the end of this part of the saga only because
Okay.
I'm writing from my own perspective of the character.
Okay. And then last but not least, and then we'll officially get to closing. Tell me about the strength level of these energy blasts he's able to protect. Are we talking Cyclops level concussive blast? Are we talking about Cell's solar Kamehameha, right? Threatening to destroy the entire solar system. What kind of levels are these energy projections or energy blasts able to reach?
Um, right now, I would say I was like, the fact that you said that makes sense. Like Cyclops,
Yeah.
like excessive, like his like max is like his big output. Like I would say max, but pretty big output. Like I've seen him do some pretty big ones.
Hmm.
I would say he'd be able to hold off something like that pretty forward. It would take a lot from him, but he'd probably be able to do something
Okay.
of that nature. Um, but like yeah, I scaled that I did scale it down a lot because of just because of storytelling. A lot because of
Yeah.
storytelling. I feel like adding the struggle to the character means more than adding insurmountable feats.
Yes,
So
and that is, oh my gosh, I love that
yeah,
you
because
said.
I feel like most people, when like just well me myself, but like I feel like most people when they read, they put themselves as the reader. They're going through the struggles, like so. Like I don't like when people are not under. I write from a perspective that all these characters are important.
Yes.
All their lives are important, and every character, whoever my favorite character is, may not be anybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so every character needs to be written with the respect that this is somebody's favorite character. Because I like when I started, I was only writing from the mindset of the protector. Like
Right.
everybody else was kind of like just talking boxes. They weren't really. They were just there to be people. They were just there to
Mhm.
answer questions a bit. So like I've met a lot of artists and I've met a lot of writers who said that's like, it's not a good way to write. You don't know who somebody else's favorite character is. And like when I started posting stuff, like people were like, oh, like Justice is my favorite character, Impact is my favorite character. And then like I would reread my first draft and I was like, they're not that interesting to be somebody's favorite character. Like if I was let's say Impact is my favorite character, and I'm like, this
Mhm.
character is not that interesting. It's like there's nothing
And
really
it's
there.
time
So
to,
like I had to like really go back and rework a lot of characters. I also started integrating a lot of people, like people in my lives, into the characters.
nice.
Because like I love the fact that I can just like call somebody and be like, look, here's the scene, this is what's happening. What would you do? What type of dialogue would you use if this was you
You're
in
getting
this
a
scene?
natural reaction
Yeah,
to that.
and
Yeah.
and what's even more crazy is a lot of characters who I wrote initially who were minor ended up becoming major players because of the lines I was getting. So like, there's a character named Vulcan,
Hmm.
and he was just supposed to show up and be an antagonist for one of my characters, and then he was gonna die, and that was gonna be it. And then I met this guy online, and I was like, "You look a lot like this character I have. Like like you look like if I was casting a movie, I would cast you." Like that's how
Hey.
close. That's how close he was. And I was like, "Well, will you give me some lines for the character?" And I was just like, he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to." So like, but the lines he was giving me were so incredible. Like his take on the character, how he wanted to the character proceed, were so amazing. I had to make him a permanent character and make him so integral to the story because of the lines he was giving me. And I was like, and it changed the story and it made it like 100 times better because his character became real. Like he had real mannerisms. He was like, I know his favorite drink. I know like what type of music he likes. Like these things became so integral, and it's like I have to write everybody like this. Like
Yes.
everybody needs this level of detail in the storytelling. So and it just made the story come more alive to me. So like in my mindset, book two is like 100 times better than book one. Like
Okay.
if I had the option, I would rewrite book one again. But
Okay.
I'm currently editing book two. I don't have time right now,
That's fair.
but like so like I'm just focused on that to get everything done the way like so like and also like I was like the Protector started in book one. The stories in book one. Like we generally know who Brandon is in book one, like who he is. So I was like every character of his team that I'm interested in introducing needs to be given that same reverence, like they need that same thing. So like book two is it starts out with a character called Impact. It's his name is Kyle Tannick. It's his general story is the
Hmm.
beginning driving force
Oh,
of
we're
the
picking up
part
with
of it.
somebody else, really?
Right, yeah. So like book two will start with somebody else, and it also book two will introduce another character named Robert Factor. Um and then there's Casey Bishop. So I had those three introduced in book two, and I wanted to make sure that they had like the most information, the most like care to the characters
At
because
the
they're really
forefront.
yeah, because they're really important. Like the team will ended up being 6 people total on the Protectors team.
Okay.
And I introduced 3 of them in this one, and in book 3, I'll introduce the last 2. And I wanted to take that time for each one of them because I felt like they deserved it. They were just a lot. It's been me personally. Book 3 is gonna be like crazy. That's gonna be probably like this. Book 2 is big too because like the first book is only like 117 pages, and I
Hmm.
think the second book is gonna be 500 pages. And then like book 3 is probably going to be, it could be more, but I feel like it may be less only because I'm dealing with less characters in book 3, as far as new characters. So
Gotcha.
like,
Gotcha. A lot of
so it
return.
may be, yeah, so it may be less, but I can't wait to publish book 2 because I had to take a lot of time off because of just like, family stuff and everything.
Life.
But yeah, life, but I'm definitely excited. I can't wait. And it's been an incredible journey and meeting new people and everything.
Dude, one of the reasons why I really enjoy doing this show is because the way that everybody that comes on lights up when they're talking about their characters, the
Oh
story,
yeah,
getting re-reminded about the inspirations and where they're going, and obviously the work that went into it, right? All the
yeah,
creativity and stuff. It's always awesome to see, like, not even midway through, you was just like, and then like you just light up for it. So I really enjoy
yeah.
the show because you get to
I
see it.
mean, the
So
creative space is one of the it's one of the best things to be in. Like it's like you said, like anytime I've met anybody in this sphere, like you've had Lonzo on and
mhm.
his entire team. I met them in Atlanta a while ago, and like they're just like they were so excited. They're so interjected. Like they were literally like at that time we were talking about things 6 and 7 months in advance, and like we were talking about getting a house and doing a creative space and all this, just hashing out a story where all of our characters go. I was like, we're not gonna sleep that night, bro. Like we're not
Right,
gonna
that's
this.
it.
We just gonna be up, like just hashing all this out. It's gonna be, crazy, and like it was beautiful, man. And it's really, and that inspiration is what just made me want to write because, sorry, it's what made me want to write. Like seeing that level of excitement in fans, like seeing them so excited over characters and things that you created, like
It's
that's something
powerful.
that's like you can't you there's no amount of money that could pay for that, and it's incredible. And even growing up as a child, like the way comics affected me in general, and animation especially, like like they just hit in ways that like I don't think any other medium has ever hit me. There
Yeah.
was, I'll say, there was one story before we go. I'll tell you. And I usually tell it anytime I have an interview. But so like there's the Justice League animated show.
Mhm,
There's an episode, I believe it's called Legends, and it's an episode that starts out with them like fighting Lex Luthor,
mhm.
a robot of Lex Luthor's, and it's Superman, Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, Flash, and John Jones,
Oh,
and they're all
mhm.
fighting and everything like that. And Flash creates a whirlwind, and it sends them into an alternate dimension, and
Yes.
they end up meeting, which is what the quote unquote the
Just
JSA of the universe, but it's legal reasons they couldn't use the JSA, so they
mhm.
created their own. And I'm honestly, that's one time I'm glad they did because I love those characters so much. Like I love them
Yeah.
to every extent of the word. I wish there was some solo series of them. But either way,
It's
they go in this world, and anybody's seen it, they find out that these heroes died already, and that the whole world is fake. That it's all been manipulated by this kid who was mutated by a nuclear explosion. And there was one moment in that episode that turned the episode to me from just a regular episode to like something that really impacted me. And all the heroes are standing there. They're watching they're watching the Justice League get beat. They're about to die. And one of them stops and says, "Look, if we help them, this world come to an end. Like we'll be gone." And then without breaking any nothing, without even without even a moment's hesitation, he looks at them. He says, "We died once for this world, and we can do it again." And they just run into action. And for me, that was every moment of what heroism is.
yes.
It doesn't matter what happens to us. We will put our lives on the line so others don't have to. And like in that moment, I was like, this is what heroes are. Like this is what it means to be a hero.
That's
And
powerful.
like it's like I was like, what I felt right then, I was like, I would be lucky to write something so impactful. I would be lucky to write something so impactful on somebody else that mattered. And it was funny. I was doing an interview with somebody, and they said a scene hit them like that hit them that hard, and I was like, oh, gosh, like you don't know what that means. Like
Man.
it meant a lot to me that it mattered. Like what I've gotten a lot of fan art, and I've gotten a lot of like messages from people like seeing my stuff and being like, your stuff got me through like dark times and stuff like that, and it means that
Yeah.
truly means a lot. Like I try to answer every single message I get because I think it's really important to be active with your fans, you know.
Yeah.
So I greatly appreciate them. So like I've gotten a lot of messages like that. I've gotten questions from, I mean, I've got comments from people across the board. Like I had somebody's parents write me that their daughter was dealing with a lot of medical problems and she was like considering giving up a lot of stuff. And she said seeing my art inspired her to start drawing. And then when she started drawing, she did a fan art of my work. And like after that, she just kept drawing everything. And like she just like it hit me because I'm just like this kid who, you know, doesn't need to do anything. And like now she's able to use art as an outlet to see past her medical issues and stuff like that. It's like if you don't understand the impact that you have in people's lives, it's like you really and understand that the character. That's why like it's hard for me to kill characters. Like I do it because it's so integral to the story that the sacrifice of these characters, but I don't do it lightly. And I don't do it with a sense of like I'm just
Shock
killing
value.
for shock value, like and like I was also a big problem with that. Like I was like bringing characters back to life. I was like I probably
It sullies the whole thing. If you're gonna do it, stick to
because like in your mind you're playing that scene out. You're playing what they did to get there. It's like now they're just back, and it's like it takes away a lot of that. You know, like it takes away from the story. So like there's a lot of characters in comics right now which never came back because like I feel like it forces you not to create new characters, and it also like just stifles your writing because then it's just
and
like
it takes away the
anybody can
stakes.
come back. Yeah, because it's just like anybody can come back. It's just like anybody can come back, and it's just like I don't want that. I don't want the sacrifice of the people who do what they do, even the sacrifices of regular people. Because like if you say like the city was destroyed and 10,000 people were injured, and then they all just come back, it's just like so nobody you cares.
So
That
what?
10,000 people died. It's like we'll figure out a way to bring them back. Like it doesn't matter. Like so,
Just
I
gather the
wanted
Dragon Balls.
right exactly yeah. So like I want the stakes to be stakes. I want people to understand when things happen that like yo these are happening to real people like and to a real fan of comics and stuff like that, that's how you feel. Like when characters die, like when Superman died, it made national news. Like
Right.
it made
It was
national
heavy, dude.
to where even the president was referenced in it. Like that's crazy to me. Like people seriously took time off their jobs because this man died, and then like it really did matter because like it was honestly like a piece of our, you know, a piece of this country died when he passed away. You're talking about somebody who'd been
And
around
then we
at
brought
the
it
time.
back.
Yeah, and then they brought him back. You know, like which
That's a whole nother conversation.
I have my own reservations on it. Like I'm not mad at the way he came back, but like I'm just thinking
It
of
was
all
just a coma.
yeah, I'm just thinking about all the stories that could have happened without him being there. Like them thinking like what would Superman have done had he still been alive? I feel like that's a more rewarding conversation. And I feel like you can still tell Superman stories. You can just say that like it's Jonathan Kent telling a story about his dad.
You could have
And
just wrote
like
Superboy
so
from
it's
that
like
point on.
it could be a story nobody have ever heard of. So you're writing a Superman story that you didn't get to see, an adventure that you didn't get to see from the perspective of his son, telling the story to his current son. You know, like that would be great. Like I would love that rather than him just being alive and fighting all the time.
And
Because I mean, in
nothing
all
ever
honesty,
changes. Like what?
because like you just think like these people literally get up every day with the understanding like I gotta go fight a bad guy. There's gonna be a bad guy, and I gotta fight him. And it's like every day like clockwork. Like this is going to happen. Like they have to. This is their life. Like it's just constant, and it just seems never ending. So like I definitely have a plan for the ending of the Protected Universe. It would definitely not be the same universe that it started out to the way it ended. And I've already like calculated out the reasons and everything like that. So like I wanted everything to to have an actual impact on it.
Bro, that is solid, bro. And we're gonna get up and talk more about some of that PC
Definitely.
Marvel stuff soon. But let the people know where they can find you, how they can support you. Of course, obviously by the Protector Saga. Go ahead and let them know as we get ready to close out.
I'm on Instagram at Grant Branson 50. My link in my bio. You can purchase my book. Like I said before, it has an updated cover done by Dominic Glover, who's an incredible artist. I'm also on Facebook at Branson Grant, and same thing. Link in the bio. You can reach my book. It's on Amazon, or you can just go to Amazon if you want to. That's fine as well. But all my social medias are all Grant Branson 50. So yep.
All right. Everybody, y'all heard it here. The Protector has joined the fray here in the Indie Breakdown. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for coming on. This was good. This was long overdue. This was good. But of course, as we close out, as you guys always know, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for joining us as we redefine power scaling in the indie world. Stay tuned for a breakdown of the Protector coming soon or shortly after this episode. And of course, stay tuned because we're really getting close to the end of season 3, and we're going to be doing our creator clash here really soon. So definitely follow Indie Breakdown, the group on Facebook, Indie Breakdown, or more accurately, Indie Breakdown /verses on Facebook and on Instagram. And then, of course, visit midnightcomics.org or get yourself a free copy of Soul. And of course, as always, everybody, remember until midnight. Remember until next time, midnight is coming. And we will catch y'all later.
Bitch, I'm proud.